What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 141 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends, or click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. If you would like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. When we come back, we'll get into this episode entitled Wounded by a Critical Parent. Welcome back to episode 141 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast entitled Wounded by a Critical Parent. For this episode, I'm going to be using an article by Dr. Seth J. Gillihan entitled 16 Signs You Were Raised by a Highly Critical Parent. And Dr. Gillihan posted this article in Psychology Today on December 8, 2022. I'll put a link in this episode's description so you can read the full article when it's convenient for you. You ready? Well, I found that frequent criticism early in life can be seen as a root cause of emotional and relationship difficulties in our teen years and throughout our adult life. This criticism for many of us felt like it was constant, and it led us to wonder, am I growing up in the wrong family, the wrong house? And as a result of thoughts like this, we spent our teenage years and 20s searching for the answer to the question, where do I really belong? I found as I work with people in addiction, this is the largest area of heart wounds that surfaces as we go through phase 2 of the From Ashes to Destiny curriculum. I'd like to list all 16 points that Dr. Gillihan outlined in his article, just the headlines, and then I'll give my own interpretation of how they apply to the addiction work that I do. Number 1 says, you have a hard time trusting yourself. I find that this becomes our definition of self or our identity, as we always feel that whatever we say, whatever we think, whatever we feel, it's wrong, and we're not worth anyone listening to us. You got it? As a result of that, you have a hard time trusting yourself. Number 2, you're hesitant to take on new challenges. I find that from a childhood lack of parental affirmation, we become almost paralyzed to try anything new and fall into a lifestyle where it's safer to just do nothing. The third topic that Dr. Gillihan pointed out as a sign that you've been wounded by a critical parent says, it's hard to bounce back from mistakes. Do you find that the constant criticism that you faced from a parent beat the ability to bounce back right out of you? And so you just wallow in these mistakes, waiting for the next one to come along. Number 4, you tend to be a perfectionist. Here I think because whatever we said, did, or felt was always wrong, we fall into a lifestyle where we need to be perfect just to avoid the judgment and lectures that we got from parents as a child. Number 5, it takes you a long time to complete a task. I think this ties right into the perfectionism, because we're afraid to fall when it's even just a little bit short of what's expected. And so we procrastinate and think we're fully working on the task when really we just are afraid to complete it. Number 6, you constantly apologize. Because we know we're always wrong, we say, I'm sorry for everything, all the time. We even start sentences on new topics by saying, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry to interrupt. And we find ourselves even saying, I'm sorry because I said I'm sorry. Does that sound like you? Number 7, you often feel defensive. For me personally, this played out as a hurt others before they hurt me lifestyle. You see, my defensiveness turned out to aggression to keep people away from the opportunity of hurting me again. Number 8, you have a hard time believing people like you. Because you've grown up feeling unloved, you become convinced that you're unlovable and even unlikable, to the point where if anyone shows interest in you or shows that they like you, you're always wondering what's their hidden agenda or what's their motive, because you're convinced that you're unlovable, so no one would be attracted to you, even for friendship. Number 9, you rarely take compliments to heart. Yeah, this is a tough one. We don't even know how to receive a compliment, so we end up deflecting it with humor, sarcasm, or self-criticism. And this is a key area which can control all of our friendships and all of our relationships and socialization, because people see good in us and do want to compliment us, but we don't know how to receive it. Number 10, you experience a lot of social anxiety. Do you find yourself fearing judgment and rejection from others? And so you simply find yourself not engaging socially, or maybe you've developed a clown or comedian mask that you put on as your only way of gaining acceptance because you're convinced that no one's going to accept you anyway. Number 11, you have a harsh inner critic. And in this one, it's like we keep listening to the tape of our parents' criticism over and over again, just playing in our mind to the point that we're our worst enemy, we're our worst critic. And number 12, as a result of that, you're prone to depression. You see, because we truly can't find anything about ourselves that we like, we just stay downcast and we stay discouraged and depressed all the time. So before you know it, we just live in this lifestyle of depression. Number 13, you tend to be critical of others. And this often comes out in the form of anger or sarcasm. And we use it as a way of keeping the spotlight off of our own faults by pointing out the faults of others. It's sort of like that lifestyle of blame shifting to protect ourselves. Number 14, your relationships with your siblings are strained. Because you felt like the black sheep or the unwanted child, it's difficult to have a relationship with your siblings that your parents openly loved or were not critical of the way they were critical of you. So you link any thoughts of your siblings to your parents' acceptance and affirmation that you so desperately wanted. And as a result, even if your parents are long gone, your relationships are still strained with your siblings. Number 15, you overthink things. Is this you? Do you keep second guessing stuff for fear of being wrong about anything? And so you are second guessing all the time and overthinking ways of presenting things in just the right way that it won't bring criticism again, either inside you or from the outside. And number 16, you feel the need to prove yourself. We can't think of any area of our life where we are enough just the way we are. And when we know we're not enough in any aspect, we feel we have to prove ourselves over and over again in every little thing, in every comment we make in a group discussion, in every conversation with a friend who really appreciates us. We feel we need to prove that we did something right. We're not a failure, just to convince ourselves that we're okay and maybe avoid the rejection that we think is coming. Whew. That's a hectic list. And to be honest, that describes a few of my childhood wounds there that I carried into my adult life. So I've given you 16 things to think about there, just a brief brush glimpse at each of them. And we could go on for hours about each one of those 16. But I think the key is, if this episode stirred things in you, I want to encourage you to talk to someone so you can start your journey of healing of those inner wounds that you may have carried into your adulthood from a critical parent in your childhood. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you'd like to join an online group or get one-on-one counseling because you found that 1, 2, or maybe a half dozen of those 16 signs that you were raised by a critical parent, a highly critical parent, need healing, please message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfromatod@gmail.com, or go to my website www.fromatod.org and click on the contact page. You can keep in touch with what we're doing in From A to D by following me on Instagram at davidfromatod. For our Spotify listeners, you can leave your comments by clicking on the link that Spotify provides on that platform. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.